Don't be selfish. Think about the child. My brother Nathan insisted, stepping into my space as if he had every right to be there. You have money, Lauren. You can always rent another place, Jessica, his wife, added dismissively, tossing my things aside like they were nothing. I didn't argue, I just smiled, turned, and walked out. 2 days later, their faces when I changed the locks, priceless. Grandma always said family promises were sacred, that blood would always come first. But the moment I returned to New York and found my brother occupying my apartment, I realized how wrong she had been. Nathan looked up from my living room, his feet casually perched on my coffee table. It was the same table Grandma had bought from a flea market in New Orleans, the one I'd painstakingly restored. Now, it was stained with cup rings and scattered crumbs. Jessica didn't even look up from her phone. She sat there, as if she belonged, and on the floor next to them, their son, my nephew, was playing with my old toy car. Not just any toy car, but the tiny Chevy Camaro my grandfather had given me when I was a kid. A tight knot formed in my chest. My suitcase hit the floor with a thud as I took in the mess around me. The Moroccan rug I had spent months saving for, wrinkled and stained. A painting I had hung with care now hung crooked. And worst of all, my family photos were gone. What the hell is going on here? My voice was calmer than I felt. Jessica's laugh was too light to be sincere. Well, Nathan thought that while you were away, we could settle in. Finding a good place with a kid isn't easy. And since this was Grandma's house. Grandma's house? I interrupted, biting back the urge to scream. You think Grandma's house belongs to you now? As if the will didn't exist? Jessica barely flinched. It just makes sense, she said with a shrug. Does it? I shot back. You think I don't need this space? You're in here, rearranging everything like it's yours. Like I'm invisible. Nathan stood up then, his expression shifting to annoyance. You're being dramatic. Grandma always wanted this place to stay in the family. And you're alone. Lauren, we've got a child now. Do you really need all this space? A searing anger rose up inside me. Grandma left this to me in her will, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. It's mine, not for you to just take. Nathan shook his head, exhaling with exaggerated patience. Don't be selfish, Lauren. Think about the kid. It was almost too much to bear. They weren't just invading my home. They were trying to make me feel guilty for standing up for myself. How did you think you could just move in without telling me? I demanded, the heat rising in my face. Don't make a big deal out of it, Nathan replied, his condescension evident. We're only staying here temporarily until we find something else. I looked around, my stomach turning. This wasn't just them moving in, it was them erasing me. The lavender plant I had kept in the kitchen was gone. In its place, baby formula. The blanket Grandma had knitted me was nowhere to be seen. Instead, a tacky, synthetic throw adorned the couch. They were slowly replacing every trace of me. Jessica crossed her arms, her expression impatient. If you were a generous person, we wouldn't be having this conversation. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. And if you were decent people, neither would we. My chest tightened with frustration. They thought they could walk all over me. They thought I'd just go along with it. But I had no intention of letting them win. The elevator reeked of dampness and bleach, that unmistakable scent of old Manhattan buildings. But when I reached the door to my apartment, it wasn't just the stale air that hit me, it was the feeling of invasion. The door was cracked open, the lock had been changed. They hadn't just moved in, they had claimed it as their own. I pushed the door open, stepping inside without a word. The sight before me only deepened my anger. What had once been my sanctuary was now a battlefield. Grandma's old armchair, the one that always carried the faint scent of her violet perfume, was now smothered under a cheap gray blanket. The cushions she had hand-stitched were gone. Had they thrown them away? My desk, where I used to sit late at night with a glass of wine, was now cluttered with baby clothes. But the worst part? My things, my life, were stacked in boxes in the hallway, waiting to be erased. What is all this? My voice was as cold as ice. Nathan strolled out of the kitchen, nonchalant, holding a cup of coffee as if he belonged here. Lauren, you're back early. Don't play dumb, Nathan. I shot back, fury building inside me. Why are my things packed up? He shrugged and set his cup down with a thud. Jessica thought it would be better to reorganize a bit. You know, so the kid could have his own room. His own room, I repeated, My disbelief turning to anger. Nathan, it's not just a house. It's my house. A bitter laugh slipped from my lips. No, it's my house. Just then, Jessica appeared, her irritation evident, a bowl of cereal in hand. Come on, Lauren, do we really need this drama? She said, taking a bite from her spoon. You have money, Nathan added in his calm, persuasive tone. You can always rent another place. It would really help us out. I stared at him, speechless, my anger simmering. Excuse me? I finally managed to ask. Sweetheart, Nathan began, his tone dripping with false sweetness. We're just saying it could work out for all of us. Work out? I echoed, though there was no humor in my voice. What part of your home don't you understand? You have no right to be here. Jessica sighed dramatically and set her cereal down. You're being so selfish, Lauren. And you're freeloaders. I fired back, not an ounce of hesitation in my words. Nathan's face tightened. There's no need to make this ugly. Oh, really? I took a step forward, and Jessica instinctively retreated behind Nathan. What's ugly is you two thinking you can walk all over me. Nathan's voice shifted to the one he used when he was trying to play the eldest brother card. Mom and Dad also think this is the best thing. They agree we should use this place. I felt the blood drain from my face. That was the truth of it, wasn't it? This wasn't just about Nathan and Jessica. Mom and Dad were behind it all. For years, I'd been the strong one, the independent one, the one who always gave in. But not this time. Not anymore. I crossed my arms, letting a cold smile settle on my face. Interesting. I'd love to hear what a judge has to say, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Jessica blinked in confusion. Nathan paused, his expression faltering. I pulled out my phone, holding it up for them to see. I've got the inheritance papers. I've got photos of my things packed in boxes. Proof that you changed the locks and moved in without permission. Do you really want to take this any further? Nathan's jaw clenched. You wouldn't take us to court, he said, his voice low, challenging. I scrolled through my phone as if I were already looking up lawyers. I wouldn't be so sure, I replied coolly, letting the silence stretch between us. Jessica leaned toward Nathan, whispering something in his ear. He looked annoyed but didn't speak. I stood there, watching as the control slipped from their hands. For the first time, they had no idea what to do because I wasn't playing the role of the understanding sister anymore. I didn't have a perfect plan yet, but one thing was clear, this wasn't going to end how they thought. Nathan ran a hand through his hair in frustration. He glanced between Jessica and me, as if trying to find an easy way out. Jessica, on the other hand, had no problem continuing her victim act. Lauren, you don't have to act like this. We're just trying to organize things as a family, Nathan said, his voice tight. I laughed, my humor laced with bitterness. Organize? No, sweetheart. Organizing means asking before barging into someone else's home. What you're doing is theft. Jessica let out an exaggerated sigh, arms crossed. Oh my God, such drama. We're just trying to have a better life at my expense. She shrugged, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Nathan's usual conciliatory tone shifted, turning cold. You know what? Mom and Dad are right about you. You think you're better than us just because you have money and can afford to live alone. There it was, the low blow. I felt the anger surge inside me, but I kept it in check. Think I'm better? I let out a dry laugh. I don't have to think it, Nathan. I am. His jaw tightened, and I could see it, the thing he'd always resented. Growing up, Nathan had been the golden child, the favorite, the eldest son. I was the one who had to share, the one who had to help, the one who always had to give in. But now, I had something he didn't, independence, success, and he hated it. Look, Lauren, Nathan began, his voice strained, but I cut him off before he could finish. No, now you're going to listen to me. I pulled out my phone again and scrolled through my contacts, unbothered by the tension that filled the room. I'm calling the police. Nathan's eyes widened, and Jessica snorted in disbelief. You wouldn't dare. I tapped my screen and put the call on speaker. 1, 2. Wait, Nathan shouted, rushing forward and grabbing my arm. I met his eyes with an icy smile. Yes, Nathan, please, there's no need to make this bigger than it is. I raised an eyebrow, unfazed. Oh really? What do you call breaking into someone's home, changing the locks, and kicking out the legal owner? Nathan swallowed hard. He knew exactly what I was talking about. Look, just give me a couple of days, he said, his voice laced with desperation. Jessica turned to him in fury, her eyes wide. A couple of days? Are you kidding me? Ignoring her, Nathan looked at me with a pleading expression. We'll sort this out. We'll leave. I ended the call before it could connect and gave him a victorious smile. You've got 48 hours, not a minute more. Without another word, I grabbed one of the boxes of my belongings and walked toward the door. Just before stepping out, I turned and shot them a final, pointed look. Oh, and by the way, if even a single one of my things goes missing, I'll press charges. With that, I left before they could respond. The adrenaline surged through me as I descended the stairs. Nathan was cornered, and he knew it, but I wasn't naive. I knew my brother wouldn't give up this easily. As soon as I stepped out of the building, I did 3 things. I called a locksmith. I wasn't about to let them get away with this again. If Nathan didn't leave in 48 hours, I'd be the one changing the locks. I called my lawyer. Yes, I had one, because unlike my family, I actually thought ahead. And, finally, I called Mom. When she answered, I was already prepared for her usual fake, concerned tone. Lauren, sweetheart, why all the fuss? Nathan told me you had a hysterical meltdown. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath before responding. Tell me the truth, Mom. How long have you known they moved into my apartment? There was a long pause, just enough to confirm my suspicions. I don't see it that way. They have a child, Lauren. I smiled coldly, though she couldn't see it. Huh, so you did know. Don't exaggerate, and if they had taken over someone else's home, would you justify it then? But it's not someone else, Lauren. It's your brother. Family helps family. The same tired line. No, Mom, family doesn't steal from family. I ended the call before she could respond. I knew Nathan would try something. Maybe Mom would call to manipulate me. Maybe Jessica would play the victim again. I didn't care. This time, when they left, I would make sure it was for good. The next 2 days were a storm. Constant calls and messages, Mom, Dad, Nathan, Jessica, all of them trying to change my mind. Lauren, do you really want your nephew to be homeless? Mom's voice was dripping with guilt, as if I were the heartless villain. Sweetheart, just think this through. Dad, as usual, the useless peacemaker. Lauren, this is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. Nathan, more desperate now. Auntie, how can you be so cold? We just wanted stability for our son. Jessica, with her emotional manipulation, every word a jab, every sentence a plea for sympathy. But it didn't matter. I knew what I had to do. I ignored every single one of them. While they wasted their time trying to guilt-trip me, I carried out my plan. Update, lock change. By 7 a.m., on the second day, the locksmith was already at my door. So they changed the lock without your permission? He murmured as he examined it. Yes, I said, crossing my arms, and now I want it back. In less than 30 minutes, Nathan and Jessica no longer had access to my apartment. No more invasion, no more excuses. Nathan called me at noon. I ignored it. At 5 p.m., he showed up at the building. He pounded on the door like a madman. Lauren, open the door, now. I sat calmly on my couch, sipping my coffee, listening to him shout from the hallway. After 10 minutes, he gave up. The message was clear. The next day, Mom decided to get involved. Sweetheart, we need to talk. We met at a coffee shop near her house. She arrived with her usual martyr expression, the one she always used to make me feel guilty. This has gone too far, she said, setting her cup of tea on the table. Nathan is devastated. I rolled my eyes. He's devastated because he can't live in my home for free anymore. Poor thing. Mom sighed, like she was burdened with an impossible daughter. Look, Lauren, he's your brother. He's not my problem. Of course he is, she said, frowning. Family should always help each other. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. Tell me something, Mom. If I had broken into Nathan's house without permission, changed the locks, and kicked him out, would you be defending me too? Mom opened her mouth but couldn't find the words. That's what I thought. Lauren. Her voice sounded more tired this time. Why are you doing this? I smiled slowly, finally feeling in control. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not going to let people walk all over me. Mom fell silent. She knew she had lost this battle. She stood up, grabbed her coat, and looked at me with sadness in her eyes. I just hope one day you understand what it means to be family. I shrugged, indifferent. I just hope one day you understand what it means to respect your daughter. She walked away without looking back. That night, when I returned to my apartment, I found an envelope from Nathan on the floor. Inside was a note, his messy handwriting sprawled across the paper. Congratulations, you won, but don't be surprised when one day you need something, and no one is there for you. I let out a bitter laugh and tore the paper in half. Nathan was gone. He had lost. I closed the door behind me and sank onto the couch with a victorious smile. This time, I was the one who set the rules. The silence in my apartment felt different now. It was no longer the emptiness of invasion, it was the calm of victory. Nathan and Jessica were gone. Their last pathetic threat went straight into the trash. But I wasn't naive. I knew this wasn't over yet. And sure enough, I was right. A month later, Jessica sent me a message. Lauren, I know you're angry, but Nathan has been really depressed. He's not himself. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a moment, torn between laughing and just blocking her number. Depressed? Of course, he was depressed. His cushy life, at my expense, was over. Instead of replying, I did something better. I blocked her number. The truth always wins. The last thing I heard about Nathan came from a cousin during a family gathering months later. His plan to find a better place failed, she said, stirring her coffee. Without your free apartment, he and Jessica had to rent a tiny place in New Jersey, far from their ideal life in Manhattan. I sipped my wine, amused. And best of all, she continued, Jessica left him. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. She said she got tired of Nathan doing nothing. My cousin added, she took the kid and filed for divorce. I smiled to myself. Karma. Over time, Mom and Dad tried to smooth things over, but it was never the same. The distance between us wasn't just physical, it was emotional. I wasn't the obedient daughter who said yes to everything anymore. And they had no idea how to handle that. So, eventually, they stopped trying. The last time I saw Nathan was by chance. Months later. I was walking past a coffee shop, and there he was, phone in hand, staring blankly. He saw me, I saw him. We didn't say a word. We just kept walking. Because he was no longer part of my life. The morning sun filtered through my window, bathing every corner of my home in warm light. Because yes, now it was truly mine. No more toys scattered around. No more rearranged furniture. No more intruders making decisions for me. I walked through my living room with a cup of coffee, savoring the silence. A different kind of silence. Before, it had felt empty, as if something was missing. Now it felt like freedom. I sat on the couch and opened my laptop. I had been thinking about something for days. I had written it last night, but I hadn't dared to post it until now. My brother and his wife took over my apartment because they needed it more. When I kicked them out, my family painted me as the villain. Now my brother is broke, his wife left him, and my parents are trying to reconnect, as if nothing ever happened. They call me cold. They say family is the most important thing, that I should be more understanding. But why am I always the one who has to understand? Why is it never them? Should I forgive them, or cut them off forever? I read the question over and over again. Did I really want reconciliation? I stared at the screen, the blinking cursor mocking me. Dad had sent me a message the other day. Lauren, can we talk? Your mother is worried. Worried about what? Because Nathan was broke? Because Jessica had left him? Because their child had to live in a modest apartment instead of mine? Not because they had hurt me. Not because they felt guilty. But because, to them, I was only useful as long as I could give them something. I took a deep breath and lowered my gaze to the keyboard. My heart pounded. Whatever I decided now would shape the rest of my life. I could ignore them forever. I could give them another chance. I could get revenge. I bit my lip. The question was still there. The cursor kept blinking. I still didn't know what to do. So I pressed my lips together. And hit post. Now, all that was left was to wait. I sank into the couch, took another sip of coffee, and opened the comments. What would you do in my place? I woke up to the sound of hundreds of notifications. My Reddit post had blown up. Thousands of people were commenting, analyzing, debating, offering advice like they were watching a reality show. But what shocked me the most were the comments that weren't on my side. I don't know, Lauren, I get that your brother was wrong, but did he really have to end up on the street with his kid? After all, he's family. The apartment belonged to your grandmother, and you were both her grandchildren. It doesn't seem fair that only you got it. Didn't Nathan deserve something too? I'm not saying your brother was a saint, but changing the locks and kicking them out in 48 hours, wasn't that too much? In the end, it backfired on you, didn't it? Because your parents are still on Nathan's side. Seems like no matter what you did, you were never going to win. That last comment hit harder than I expected. Because they were right. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. My parents. They had always taken Nathan's side. Ever since we were kids. He was the eldest son, the one who made mom and dad beam with pride at family gatherings. The one who got words of encouragement when he failed. The one who never had to prove he was worthy of love. I, on the other hand, had to earn it. If I got good grades, it was expected. If I had problems, I was too sensitive. If I needed something, there were always more important things to take care of. But with my paternal grandmother, it was different. She was the only one who made me feel like I belonged. Maybe because she knew what it was like to be left out. My mother never liked her. They never got along. I guess, in her mind, I wasn't her daughter. I was just her mother-in-law's granddaughter. So it was my grandmother who was there for me when my parents weren't. She taught me how to cook, how to care for plants. She told me stories of her youth in New Orleans while we sipped hot chocolate in the winter. That's why she left me her apartment. It wasn't favoritism. It was love. But the moment the inheritance was read, my parents made it seem like an injustice. It's not fair, they said. Grandma didn't think about Nathan's future. You don't need that much space. Lauren, don't be so stubborn. He's still your brother. All of it came rushing back as I read the comments on Reddit. And I realized something I had never wanted to admit. Yes, I was angry about how they had treated me. Yes, I was sick of always being the one who had to compromise. But more than anything, yes, I envied Nathan. I saw it in a comment and almost dropped my phone. Lauren, I know your brother treated you badly, but have you ever considered that your anger isn't just about this situation? It seems like you've spent your whole life wanting your parents to see you, to choose you. For once, but they never did. Maybe part of your resentment comes from that. Ugh. Seriously? Yes. That was it. I had always hoped that, just once, my parents would defend me. That they would say, Lauren is right, this belongs to her. That they wouldn't automatically take Nathan's side. But they never did. And I had spent years pretending it didn't hurt. Convincing myself that I didn't need their approval. But if I truly didn't care, why did it hurt so much? I rubbed my face with both hands. I had no answers. Should I talk to my parents about this? Would it even be worth it? Or, more importantly, did I even want to have a relationship with them anymore? The question lingered in my mind as I stared at the screen. My post kept gathering comments. But this time, I wasn't sure I wanted to keep reading.